So, the reason why I like the Euros so much is actually pretty simple. They are both color coded and size differentiated by size. So, it's very simple if you're, for example, looking in your wallet and you want to find, say, a 5 cent. Then I know that I will be looking for a sort of coppery colored coin, and it's going to be the biggest of all the coppery coins. Then if I move to, like, I don't know, a 20 cents, for example, another thing that I like is that some of them are also textured. So if you look at the 10 cent, we have this kind of texture on the side, and that is mimicked by the 50-cent coin, but not by the 20-cent coin. 20-cent coin looks a bit different from the side. And just alone, based on this alone, I can very easily figure out from the side if I'm looking at a 10-cent coin, a 50-cent coin, because if I'm looking at the 10 and 50 cent together, I will very easily be able to tell them apart based on their size, because they are very different in size, despite having the same kind of texture on the side. So this comes in handy because this is kind of, in terms of size, it's similar to both of them. It's an in-between step. However, there's a different texture to make it even easier to figure out which one you're looking at. Then, when it comes to the texture of the 1 and the 2 cent, they also have a different texture, which is really cool. You might think that, like, it would be too expensive or something to come up with a different pattern for the 2 cent to also have a similar system to this one. But no, they actually have a system for that. If we look at the 5 cent, it's flat. The 1 cent is also flat. However, the 2 cent has this kind of bevel in the center. So, again, we can apply the same logic when looking at the coins in our purse from our wallet from the side. It's easy. If I'm looking for a 2 cent, I know it should have a bevel. If I'm looking for 1 cent, I know it's the smallest coin that I can find with a straight edge. If I'm looking for a 5 cent, it's the largest copper one with a straight edge. And then when we get to 1 and 2 euros, what I like about them is that they are completely different. So when we look at uh, them from in terms of their color, that is probably one of the biggest giveaway of, like, what we're dealing with when we look into a wallet, because these are the largest coins, I mean most valuable coins, and they also have two different colors. And so we can see that they're using the same color scheme, essentially, just flipped. They're using the same colors, just flipped. So we get this kind of golden-ish brassiness on the outside for the 1 euro, and the silver on the inside, and the silver on the outside, and the brass on the inside. I also want to show kind of how they look when they're somewhat new. But sometimes what happens is that over time they become pretty dull. But you can still tell them apart based on, like, because the color difference between them is, they're never going to blend in together. They are just way too different for that. And plus we get the whole texture thing. So that is one reason why I like the euros. Those are the coins explained. It all just makes sense. We have three groups which are very different from each other based on the color. We have the coppery, the brassy, and then we have the ones that mix two colors together. And within them, we have a texture differentiation for the one in the middle. So you can easily tell them apart. Because these ones are the ones that will be the hardest to distinguish from, that will easily get mixed with 1 or a 50 cent. So that's why these have to be different. Because once these ones are out of the equation, it's really easy to tell these two apart. They're just way too different in terms of their size. But this one needs, the middle step has to have a different texture on the outside, which they do perfectly. So it all makes sense. And then when we go to the banknotes. Unfortunately, I don't have many of them. Recently, I had to use my €5 one, um, but it's like sort of greenish, grayish kind of one. Hard to explain. Not good at colors, but basically, even when it comes to these ones, they are color coded. So just by the color, I know what I'm looking at. And plus, they also have different sizes, and they all change by one step, which that's pretty cool. And this is the reason for why I love the euro so much, because it's all so simple, but it all makes sense. It makes using these coins incredibly easy, because you can just easily differentiate them when you're searching for them in the wallet, and it avoids confusion. And it's just a very practical sort of coin. So yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to my rant about the euro and why I like it so much. And see you next time.